Nepal, nestled between China and India, is a land of breathtaking natural beauty. From the towering peaks of the Himalayas, including Mount Everest, to calm valleys and calm rivers. Home to about 30 million people, it is a culturally rich nation with diverse ethnic groups, languages and traditions. The streets of Kathmandu, a capital city located in a valley of ancient temples and breathtaking mountains, have become a battleground. And it's not soldiers fighting, but kids. The air, usually thick with the scent of incense and momos, now carries the sting of tear gas and the smoke from burning tires. This isn't just a small-scale demonstration, it's a nationwide convulsion. The protests, which kicked off on September 8, 2025, have spiraled into a full-blown crisis, shaking the very foundations of the Himalayan nation. The cost of this uprising has been devastatingly high. As of today, the death toll has tragically climbed to 72. With over 2,000 people injured across the country, hospitals are overwhelmed and the nation is grieving. The catalyst for this explosion was a decision that seems almost absurdly authoritarian in the modern age. On September 3rd, the government decided to pull the plug on the digital world.
Platforms that went dark in Nepal include Facebook, Messenger, Instagram, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, Discord, Pinterest, Signal, Threads, WeChat, Quora, Tumblr, Clubhouse, Rumble, and
what began as a digital outcry quickly turned into physical confrontation. Young demonstrators torched the parliament building. They even stormed 2 prisons in western Nepal, leading to a mass breakout of nearly 900 inmates. This wasn't just a protest anymore, it was a revolution, and it brought the government to its knees, forcing Prime Minister Oli to resign. The government's ban on social media was viewed by many young Nepalists as an attempt to silence their voices. Platforms had become a space to discuss corruption and highlight the privileges of political elites, often referred to as Nepo kids. Nepo kids is short for nepotism kids, a term used to describe the children of powerful or wealthy individuals who benefit from their family connections. While ordinary young Nepalists struggle to find work and build a future, the Nepo kids have been flaunting their opulent lifestyles all over social media. For the average youth, this isn't aspirational, it's infuriating. The youth unemployment rate in 2024 stood at a staggering 20.8%. That means 1 in 5 young people who want a job can't find one. They graduate with degrees only to face a barren job market, while the well-connected children of the elite walk into powerful positions with little to no qualifications. This primal anger is what transformed frustration into a full-blown movement. It provided a simple, powerful narrative. They are living large because we are left with nothing. To understand why Nepal is so unstable, you have to look back. For centuries, the country was a Hindu kingdom, ruled by a Shah dynasty seen by many as divine. The king wasn't just a head of state, he was considered an incarnation of Vishnu, a Hindu god who protects the world and keeps it in balance. Power sat with a tiny royal elite, while the vast majority had no say. That world was shattered in one horrific night. June 1st, 2001, inside Narayanhiti Royal Palace, the Crown Prince Dipendra, allegedly intoxicated and upset over a marriage dispute, gunned down his father, King Birendra, his mother, Queen Aishwarya, 7 other members of the royal family, then turned the gun on himself. The massacre sent shockwaves worldwide, created a power vacuum and a crisis of faith in the monarchy. In the years after, King Bipendra's brother became king. King Gyanendra lost his power after ruling alone and ignoring democracy, which led the people to rise up and force him to step down. In 2008, the 240-year-old monarchy was abolished. Nepal became a federal democratic republic. It was a moment of immense hope. People believed democracy would end corruption and bring prosperity and fairness. They had fought for it and expected real change. New democratic leaders, many former rebels and activists, fell into the same corrupt habits. Political instability followed. A constant change of prime ministers, frequent government collapses. Scandals became normal, from misuse of public funds to corruption in politics. The hope of 2008 turned to cynicism and street anger. The youth of Nepal are caught in a brutal economic trap. Faced with this bleak landscape at home, hundreds of thousands of young Nepalis make a heartbreaking choice every year. They leave. They migrate to the Gulf countries, to Malaysia and beyond, taking on difficult and often dangerous jobs. They become the foundation of their families, sending back remittances that are a lifeline for the entire Nepali economy. The government's response to this crisis was not to create jobs or opportunities. Instead, it was to try and control the conversation. The government claimed it was to prevent misinformation, but for the youth, the motive was clear: censorship. At the heart of the street protests is an organization called Hami Nepal. It translates to We Nepalis. Founded in 2015 by a man named Sudan Gurung, the group emerged from the rubble of the devastating Nepal earthquake. Its initial mission was simple and noble: to provide disaster relief. Hami Nepal quickly gained public trust through its transparent approach. When the protests erupted, Hami Nepal was perfectly positioned to help coordinate and amplify the voice of the youth. They weren't a political party, but they became the de facto organizers of the movement. As Hami Nepal's profile grew, so did conspiracy theories. The most persistent one points a finger at the United States, suggesting foreign influence behind the protests. These theories paint the young protesters not as patriots demanding change, but as pawns in a larger geopolitical game between superpowers. However, there is no official evidence that Hami Nepal receives funding from the United States. The organization maintains its funding comes entirely from public donations, primarily from Nepalis at home and abroad. Adding another complex layer to this crisis is Nepal's shifting relationship with its powerful neighbors, India and China. For decades, Nepal, a landlocked country reliant on India for trade and transit, traditionally sent new prime ministers to New Delhi first. That convention was broken recently. After becoming prime minister for the fourth time, KP Sharma Oli's first official visit was to China, not India. That pivot was solidified 3 months before the protests. In December 2024, Nepal and China signed a new cooperation framework under China's Belt and Road Initiative. This new deal aimed to reinvigorate cooperation and kickstart infrastructure, upgrading roads, new transport corridors through the Himalayas, a possible cross-border railway. For China, a move to increase influence in South Asia. For many Nepalis, Chinese investment sparks skepticism and fear. They point to Sri Lanka and Pakistan and fear massive, unsustainable debt, lack of transparency in contracts, risk of ceding sovereignty to Beijing. The timing, signed by a government seen as deeply corrupt, raised alarm bells. Protesters feared projects would fuel kickbacks and enrich politicians. The BRI wasn't the direct trigger, but it added to the sense the country was heading in the wrong direction, led by a government that was unaccountable, corrupt, increasingly beholden to external interests. As the protests raged, the country escalated into chaos. The civilian government completely lost control. The resignation of Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli on September 9th left a dangerous power vacuum. In this moment of extreme crisis, the one institution that had remained intact and respected decided to step in. On the evening of September 10, 2025, the Nepal army announced it was taking control. The army chief declared that troops were being deployed into Kathmandu and other hotspots to control the situation. This is always a tense moment, the military taking power. It can be the beginning of a brutal dictatorship, but in Nepal's unique context, the army is often seen as one of the few functional and relatively non-partisan institutions in the country. Their intervention was met with a mixture of apprehension and relief by a public desperate for stability. Following the collapse, an interim Prime Minister, Sushila Karki, was inaugurated. Though her role is largely symbolic, the army's takeover was not framed as a permanent takeover, but as a temporary measure. Their stated goal was not to rule, but to stabilize the country. This set the stage for one of the most remarkable turns, the army turning to the very people who had brought down the government. to help rebuild it. After the government collapse, the Nepal army invited protest leaders to participate in discussions about the country's future. Young activists are now involved in forming an interim civilian government, working alongside military officials. The process is ongoing. The outcome and stability of the new government remain uncertain.